Hello, my name is Doran Shafrir and I am a philosopher, which means I don't have anything to do. So this is why I'm here at home talking to you right now. And I wanted to ask you, who should participate in an election? Your answer might be something like, well, those who have the right to vote should participate in an election. But is voting and participating the same thing? Because today I want to show you why it kind of isn't the same thing. Consider this. Some time ago, women were not allowed to vote. Does that mean that they did not participate in the democratic process? Well, we would be tempted to say yes, that this is what this means. But let's think about this as plainly as possible. If a man votes and he is exposed to a woman, and in fact, you might say that a woman in many cases plays a significant role in the man's life, does it then mean that the woman does not participate in the elections? She does not vote, and I'm not saying that she shouldn't vote, right? I'm just thinking about this. She is still participating because she can influence and she can voice her opinion. And if you consider only the men voting as some sort of, I don't know, maybe one vote per family block or something like that, then it's perfectly reasonable to say that women do participate, but to a lesser degree than men. So why did I just give you this speech? Well, because the American elections, well, all elections, but especially the American elections, actually have a lot of people participating in it. And when people first thought about democracy, they did not probably have in mind that there would be global participation in the United States election. To give you an example, Piers Morgan, the famous journalist, I think he's not an American, he might be, but he's active in Great Britain, but he's extremely influential in participating, in a sense, in the American elections. He has power to sway the opinions of people. He does it by having massive reach on social media and other places, in which he can conduct debates and, voice his opinions and stuff like that. So he is participating, but he's not voting. Now, you might say this is not a problem because it helps further the debate, right? So it makes us more informed and it's a great thing to have. And I generally tend to agree. I might also add that he's part of the Western world, and even further than that, he's part of the Anglosphere. So the dialogue is sufficiently similar in order to have the opinion that this guy participating, it's cool because, he's close enough to us. But what about what's happening all throughout social media? Take, for example, X, or formerly Twitter. People on X are participating in the American elections, and they're not Americans. They can voice their opinions. They can make us feel as though there is some underlying issue that a lot of people feel so deeply about, when it's not really that big of an issue. For example, just to give you something relevant, take the conflict in Gaza. Well, many Muslims believe that Israel is conducting a genocide in Gaza. Especially, I bet if you did a poll of almost 2 billion Muslims worldwide, you would find that almost all of them believe that Israel is conducting a genocide and that Israel is evil and that the United States should be very much concerned by breaking its alliance with Israel, essentially, and maybe getting rid of the Jewish overlords, right? If you buy into that sort of things. So this is an opinion that's widespread in the Muslim world. But what if we discovered that many people who are participating in the conversation and thus participating in the election process actually come from the Muslim world, and they are posting on X? And maybe some of them, and many of them, are Russian or Iranian bots or something like that. They are participating in the elections because they're changing the conversation that's happening in America. So what I'm trying to show you here essentially is that the democratization of voting and of the election really, we have to ask ourselves this question. Who gets to vote? who gets to participate, because these two are not necessarily the exact same, right? Only Americans get to vote over a certain age, but everyone gets to participate. How do we account for people participating and influencing who should not be participating or influencing? And if we deny participation, let's imagine for a second that it's even possible, how do we go about doing that? I mean, is it fair even? Who should get to participate? Only American citizens? Well, what if I'm British and I speak English and I want to voice my opinions over what's happening in America? Do I get to participate? And how would you even block participation? Do you just lock YouTube and X and you have only Americans talking to Americans? Of course, that's impossible. So I guess what I'm asking here is, are we seeing the buds of the fall of democracy? Because as you guys might know by now, it's not just that really. Because what we're having is completely different information sources. It's not only that people are participating who maybe shouldn't participate, it's also that the information you get depends on your previous behavior, right? So let's say, I don't know, I used to have this edgy phase in my early 20s when I would believe that, maybe we can build a supercomputer, and that supercomputer can always calculate what is best overall, and that supercomputer can, manage the world and manage countries and stuff like that, okay? I guess I was basically discovering utilitarianism before I knew that utilitarianism existed. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. We all had a phase of some silly ideas when we were younger. But imagine if I've had this idea in the age of X and social media, and I would start to look it up, maybe on YouTube, maybe on Twitter, maybe on wherever, okay? And then I would start to be bombarded by messages that fit a person like me in my 20s. This means that by just having this weird phase, I would have gone into an echo chamber, which could have kept me for years. And this echo chamber, by the way, could have been filled by people who do not vote in any election, but only participate in the conversation. Okay, so for example, let's say that I'm thinking of Islam, right? Now, that's not to say that there aren't Muslims in the West. Of course, there are. But many people who go into that Islam rabbit hole, they essentially get influenced by cultures who are not part of the election process. I mean, they may have an election in their own Islamic countries, of course, but are they part of elections in European parliaments or for the American presidency? I would assume that in many cases the answer is no. So could the democratization of the election process be very problematic? Well, I'll leave this up to you guys. Thanks for sticking around and listening, and see you next time.